Hey there, and welcome to episode number 10 of Wrestling with the Mind. I'm your host, Matt Sigmund, health coach by day, pro wrestler by night. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. After some tech challenges last week on the interview side of things, we weren't able to have Bob Evans on, but this week we have re-recorded her for round 2. And I'm excited to bring you this chat today as he discusses a little bit of his journey in professional wrestling and how it has impacted mental health for him and the others around him. So I look forward to delivering that today. But before we dive into that chat, a little bit of housekeeping here for you. A call to action of sorts. One thing that can help us dramatically as we grow is to get reviews on each podcast platform service that we are on, which is now iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Amazon. All these locations you can now download the podcast. So if you listen through one of those services, please take the time to leave us a review. Let us know what you think about the show. It helps us to expand our reach and connect with so many more people that haven't had a chance to listen to us yet. I am also looking for some new features to add in the mix here, both on the podcast and over on the website wrestlingmind.com for things that can help people on their mental health journey. So I'm looking for suggestions. So if you have anything that you believe could add value to this project of ours, I encourage you to reach out, message us on the social media pages, or message me directly. Either way, send your feedback and thoughts. I'd love to hear from you as we grow this into something special. Now, before we start our chat with Bob Evans, I thought it would be good to do another round of guided meditation. If this is not your thing, totally okay. Just skip ahead a minute or so, and then you can hop right into the chat. But if this is your thing, if this is something that you would like to take part in, you can start by finding a comfortable and seated position. Now, this is either in the chair or on the floor. Rest with your hands gently on your lap by your sides and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Then exhale slowly through your mouth. Let go of any tension or stress. Repeat this deep breathing for a few more cycles. Focus on the sensation of the air moving in and out of your body. Focus on the temperature of your breath. Now bring your attention to your body. Start with your toes. Imagine a wave of relaxation washing over. Allow any tension or stress to release and let go as you feel a sense of calm and peace settling into your body. Next, bring your attention to your breath. Notice the rhythm and pace of your breathing. Allow your breath to become slower and deeper with each inhale and exhale. As you continue to breathe deeply, imagine a peaceful place in your mind. It could be a beach, forest, mountain, living room, whatever works for you. Imagine yourself in this peaceful place, surrounded by tranquility and beauty. Allow yourself to feel the calm and peace that comes from being in this space. Stay here for a few moments, simply enjoying the peace and tranquility of this place. When you're ready, slowly begin to bring your awareness back to your physical body. Wiggle your fingers and toes, take a few deep breaths, and then open your eyes, feeling refreshed and relaxed and centered. Now let's hop into our chat with Bob Evans. All right, Bob, this is round number 2. Since last week's take didn't stick, I feel like we're on some of those old SmackDown tapings where Vince didn't like the match and he sent it right back out to re-record. How are you doing?
I'm good. I remember going in Utica, New York. It was a Superstars taping right before Lex was going to fight Yokozuna for the title at SummerSlam.
Right.
And it was Brooklyn Brawler and 1-2-3 Kid, and something didn't go right. So they had that match, and then one or two matches happened again. And then Brooklyn Brawler came out, grabbed the mic, and said, "I was robbed. I was cheated. I want a rematch with you, 1-2-3 Kid, right now." And then 1-2-3 Kid's music started right up, and it was like the match never happened. And they just did it again and fixed whatever was broken.
I apologize that it did mess up. Technology was not my friend last week in the least, but I do appreciate you popping back over to re-record of sorts. Perhaps, I guess, a little bit cleaner, a little bit smoother. Yeah, and as always, thank you for carving out a little bit of time just to hop on here and talk about mental health and everything. And for those who know you, they already know you. And for those who do not know you, give us a little bit of an introduction to Bob Evans.
Yeah, sure. Born and raised in Swansea, Massachusetts, which is very close to the Massachusetts-Rhode Island line, about 60 miles south of Boston. And I'm still in the area. I grew up about 1,000 feet I live about 1,000 feet from where my parents are still. So I'm right across the street pretty much, and kind of a towny guy. So, didn't have much of the big city to deal with, but started playing sports and did sports in high school, and, didn't have any wrestling fans really in my life until I met some buddies in middle school. But my parents weren't into it at all. My mom's a retired librarian. My father's a retired middle school teacher, and developed my love for wrestling through, it kind of grew and started kind of doing backyard wrestling in college. And then that turned into one of the pros seeing me on my public access show and contacting me and asking me if I wanted to train with the big boys. And that was for approximately 31 years ago. And here I am. I'm still here. So, and then I've gone through a lot of, done a little bit of wrestling with WWF, WWE, done some stuff with Impact, NWA, and then probably most known for in the national scene for 8+ years at Ring of Honor, and teaming with Cheeseburger, and then teaming with Tough Tim Hughes, who's still my tag team partner to this day in Tough Guy Inc. And now I travel the country trying to tell people how to get ahead in independent wrestling, whether you want to make it a career or just a fun side hustle or just a hobby, just to make it a little more rewarding and avoid a lot of the pitfalls that I did. And really the biggest thing I do is I try to, and you and I talked about this in take one, Matt, it was, trying to do this business without, come home with a little bit of money so the wife or the husband or the boyfriend or the girlfriend doesn't yell at you and say, "Why'd you waste all that time running away from me?" And you came back with nothing. So it's that's really a lot of what I do. So
yeah, and you've been around our crazy world of wrestling for a very long time. You've seen the ups, you've seen the downs. One of the cool things, though, that I see about you is even after all this time, you still have such a strong passion for it, number one. But number two, just from the encouragement, the inspirational, the mental health side of things, you are constantly putting out there support for people and helping others get through tough challenges, tough days, in the ring, out of the ring, and just kind of improving people's lives along the way. So I that is one of the main reasons I just love seeing your content, number one, and really wanted to have you on here for a chat just because you have become well known as this strong form of support for a lot of guys and girls in the wrestling business.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and here's the big secret, Matt, is whenever you see me put something out where I'm encouraging somebody, it's usually me writing a letter to myself. Or if I say, hey, it's, you screwed up, that's okay. Tomorrow's a better day, or learn from your mistakes, or don't do the same things I did. That's usually me messing up and kind of trying to find a way to make this positive, or something kind of negative happened to me and I can bury someone on Facebook, or I can talk crap about people, or I can kind of find a way to turn it into a positive and try to, and positive doesn't mean rah, rah, yay, everybody's fine. Positive just means what's the best I can take out of this situation. Right. Sometimes it's survival. Sometimes it's getting back to zero. I'm at a negative 30 today, so I'm going to get back to zero and at least live to fight another day. It's not always about happy, smiley, everything's wonderful. It's about, how do I get through the day? How do I take something from the day? And, I've made plenty of mistakes. I've screwed up so many times. And that's the big takeaway, is that when I'm writing that stuff, always keep in mind that I'm usually writing myself, or I see something online where somebody kind of, the usual ones. Oh, okay, there's so many disrespectful young people these days. And it's like, man, there's just about as many disrespectful young people as there were last, because I know I used to be one and now I'm not.
Right.
And really it was me just trying to act out and trying to belong and trying to get someone to listen to me and care about me. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't know how to deal with it. So that's kind of where we are. So it's, I hear that one all the time, and, everybody can't work, and, nobody listens, and nobody knows how to sell, and all the nonsense that we hear. And it's like, there's plenty of people that can work and sell and do those things. It's just, we're not looking for that. We're looking for the negative to justify our antiquated theories. And I'm just not, I want to evolve and try to have new theories and try to, kind of be I have no issues being an old guy. I just want to be the coolest old guy in the room. So
yeah, and it's interesting the way you talked about how your posts will often be kind of reflective of your day, because I find myself in the same position a lot of time. I try to make most of my social media posts in general about business, number one, or something along the lines of a fitness inspiration or a mental health inspiration. Sure. And oftentimes that is because, hey, I woke up wrong side of the bed, something didn't work well in the morning, and as time's gone on, I've sat and realized, hey, I need to turn this around, and so I'll make a post about something similar to that situation, just to get it off my chest and to try to bring others on board the positive side for the day. Yeah, so that's very interesting that you said it, because I've never really thought about that in terms of how I go about things, but that tends to be how I play it out as well. So yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and Kevin Kelly, who you know very well, I know you're very good friends with Kevin, just like I am. Kevin Kelly always says, because Kevin's the same. Kevin kind of was a funny guy. I'm sure you've had some people in your life that are, and we can use those dark arts for good or for evil.
Right.
And we kind of choose to be, the dark angels. We kind of choose to be the guys who are using it for good. And there's a lot of people that don't. We've seen, the last couple of years, especially with people, the speaking out thing. And I had a talk with a lovely female wrestler over the weekend, and she made a joke, and I said, gee, I don't even know if I could say the same joke you said right now. And she's like, no, it's fine. And I said, but I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about somebody overhearing it. And it's always a thing now. Now we've all had our inappropriate moments, I'm sure, but I've always tried to kind of, not mix that kind of stuff with, and I've always been married anyway since I've been wrestling. So it really, trying to look for a wife or trying to have a girlfriend on the side just isn't really, my cup of tea. But I also think that digs into mental health too, because I think sometimes people, and I think that's what happened to people came before us. They were always so worried about living that lifestyle, even if it was a lifestyle that they didn't necessarily want to live 100%, but they were trying to perpetuate some sort of myth that, wrestlers on the road had to be losers, and they had to be drug guys and drink every night in the bar and bed down with a bunch of women. And,
right.
There were plenty of guys that didn't want to do that. And there were plenty of guys that didn't do that, but they weren't as exciting. So we didn't hear about them.
You don't hear the stories about the guy that goes back to the hotel and just sits all night. Right.
And the thing is too, Shawn Michaels talks about, when Shawn Michaels was at the Hall of Fame and Tito Santana was getting in, he said, we all want the Tito thing. And that's, be married to the same lady, have, Tito's kids all, went to Ivy League schools, and he ended up leaving and now makes six figures as a teacher, and he's going to have a pension and also be a wrestling legend at the same time. And I'm sure Tito made plenty of mistakes too, but he got the big stuff right. And it was funny that Shawn Michaels, who's much more famous than Tito Santana and is probably, in a lot of people's Mount Rushmore of best, 4 or 5 wrestlers on the planet,
right,
still wanted the Tito thing at the end because Shawn Michaels grew up and realized that all that craziness, it was exciting, but what did it amount to at the end?
Yeah, that long-term payoff wasn't as good as what they thought, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
right. So,
from a mental health just perspective here, and in your case, this time you've put in wrestling and other avenues too, what does good mental health look like for you?
Well, I've really kind of started to double down on this again. Back in the gym, obviously. And I know there are a couple guys that, Tim Hughes, my tag team partner, who I mentioned before, and Mike Bennett, who we all know, who's in Ring of Honor now, AEW. Those guys have been really pushing to me the points of meditation, and I'm learning and I'm trying to figure it out. And I know you and I had talked about that briefly, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's prayer, whether it's sitting there and focusing on your breath, whatever it is. I'm just trying to figure it out. And now I'm so excited about learning. And this is going to sound like I'm trying to get everybody to go back to college, but that's not what I want to do. I'm so excited about learning new things about business, not the wrestling business, that too, but business, marketing, and that's exciting to me. So meditation for me lately has been get my booty off the couch, get walking, because the weather's getting nicer here in New England. So
right.
It's almost 60 degrees today, which is fantastic. So I went out and I, just one, not only did I get my gym time in, which was great, but it's, get an extra 15, 20 minutes in, get an extra 1,500 steps in, and it's not to just achieve those numbers, but I'm going to focus, and I'm really going to focus on this audiobook I have about marketing and simplifying your message. And I'm really excited to hear about it. It was a gentleman that I heard on a podcast, and he said he had a book, and I said, I got an Audible credit. I'll use it on that. So I was really excited to hear it. But once I had about 20 minutes in, I was starting to lose my focus and daydream and kind of move on from it. So I stopped. And I think mental health also is us strategizing with our ADHD, and a lot of creative people have it, and a lot of people these days have it, just because that's going to be the biggest epidemic you watch. That's the ADHD epidemic is coming because of all the phones and screens and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I think we're already starting to see people kind of figure out that maybe that's not the best thing. So I think going for a walk for 15 or 20 minutes, even if you have something in your ears, which is fine. It could be music with I love new age music. I love instrumental music. I don't necessarily like classical music, but I like, orchestral music, instrumental music, new age music with no words. It's funny because my wife laughs at me because every year I do my taxes to the same kind of like couple of albums, right. But I found out that I just work better that way.
Yeah.
So she goes, "Oh, it must be tax time. I hear the new age, and it's, that's how I kind of focus." So,
right. Yeah.
And it's really, I think, taking those 15 or 20 minutes and just kind of focusing on something and kind of getting meditation any way you can. And I know you're a big gym guy because I know you love showing off them guns, and there's a reason why, loaded for bear.
That's all I've got. That's all I got. The left arm flex, and it's good for a picture.
It's your gimmick, it's what you do. It's your move.
Yeah.
But but that's the thing. And I don't get annoyed by that because I go, hey, my friend Matt's in the gym. That's when I know you're okay. See, That's kind of like what people don't understand. When I don't see something for a while, and because we all fall into patterns, and I keep an eye on so many of you in that social media realm that when I don't see something for a while, I get kind of weirded out. If I saw you, posting different things,
right? Yeah.
That I know the top 3 ones I'm going to see from you are you on you at a wrestling show or on a road trip, you with your family, or you in the gym. Those are the three I know.
That's
So
all I've got.
hey, but that's so if you started posting some real strange stuff, then I'd say, okay, then maybe Matt's not okay. Maybe I have to check in with Matt. And I try to check in with as many people as I can. But I mean, you're a mentor to a lot of people. You know how it is. So we try to do the best we can. And
Yeah, no,
stuff like this
I think that's
you know,
that's so awesome of you too. That's your observational skills, just from what I'm hearing right now, just in your personal journey and seeing how everything from meditation to music to getting that movement in each day impacts your mental health, and then just being so observant to see how other people's patterns are and the need to check in. I wish so many more people could be that way. And unfortunately, we are distracted by so many things in life right now with screens and just the craziness going on in the world that sometimes we don't put that focus on. And I think just as good mentors, as good friends, that's something we should all strive to do, is kind of be checking in on others and looking at for those patterns of awareness, and as things are getting crazier by the moment.
well, and it's funny too, because I don't know if you follow him. He's a good Oklahoma boy, John Bloodworth. I've been trying to bring him out to you'd like him. He's a fitness guy. He's a former wrestler, and he has a very interesting way of looking at things. Because one of the things that he says, and I love it. He goes, "I'm not going to tell you not to have excuses, because I bet every single one of them is valid, but you still have to find a way to do the stuff anyway."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, because excuses are valid. Look, you have kids, I have kids, we have families, we have work. I don't want, we talked about this last time. I don't want to do wrestling full time. You may want to, and I respect that and love you for it. I don't want to do wrestling full time. Even if I do wrestling 7 days a week, I will still call it a part-time thing, and I'll never do it 7 days a week. But that's why people, I've had, and I'm not going to lie and make up a bunch of stuff, but I've had feelers from national companies where I've had chances to possibly, I said possibly, not guaranteed, but people have given me informal interviews about going to different places to coach and things like that. And it's always been, but I don't know if I want to go to wrestling every day to work. Like I have too many other things in my life, and I love wrestling and what wrestling's given to me. It's given me a sense of identity. It's given me confidence. It's given me, I come from a long line of teachers and mentors. My dad is a legendary teacher, like a legendary English teacher, like the one that turns it all around for people. Like, people still talk to me this day with tears in their eyes, how much he meant to them. And they say it to him too. I mean, he's still alive and well, but, and he's like, "Oh, you should go into teaching." I said, "I am teaching." And he's like, "Yeah, you're kind of right." Because that's when I think my family and my parents started respecting this a little bit more. Not that they disrespected it, but when the mentorship came up and the national leadership and things like that. And, that was one of the things that really helped me. And I kind of had to grow up really quick when that happened. And it kind of happened all at once, where I started going out all over the country. Is, yeah, man, like, you can't be a fool anymore. Like, not that I really was at the time, but and that, you have to kind of like, and it was weird because I'd be hearing the same stuff all over the country, like a lot of the same problems, a lot of the same issues, mental health, a lot of, abuse, or the same kind of, PTSD issues, or I'm a veteran that came back and wrestling saved my life. I mean, I've heard that 25 times.
Right.
I've heard people say, "Hey, this kept me from committing suicide last year." And you hear a lot of like really cool stories like that. And I've also heard people say, "Hey, I'm about to throw in the towel. I don't know what else I can do." And then you kind of show them that they really haven't done all that much. And it's not calling them on the carpet. It's saying, "Hey, you can do a little bit more." Like, you hit, come on. We've all been there, Matt. You hit a wall and you think you've done everything in wrestling. And then someone like me or you comes along and says, "You ain't done nothing yet because you haven't tried these 20 things."
Right.
And it's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I haven't tried those 20 things." And, "Oh gee, I didn't realize that." It's like, it just takes perspective and people having to kind of shift and look at things a little differently. And when you're stuck, that's why I always tell people, get coach. And I don't necessarily mean me, but get coaching, get help, have an accountability group, have a mastermind group, have somebody that you get together with once a week, where this would be great for mental health. Get together once a week and, how did you do on your goals? How did you do? How was the dance recital? How was that? Like some personal stuff. And then how are you doing? Did you said you were going to work on getting out of debt. Did you pay off that bill? Did you do that? I've had accountability groups from everything from getting out of debt to, obviously, I've been in Gamblers Anonymous for years. I mean, that's an accountability group. I don't get to as many meetings as I used to, but 4+ years gambling, but I can tell you they're valuable.
But something that, keeps you accountable and just on track with everyday life. Yeah.
Right. And then, I still have the coin that, the guy gave me, John, and John was very ill and had Parkinson's and was still going to meetings more often than I was. And he gave me this little coin. It's like a plastic, it's just a GA coin, Gamblers Anonymous. And he says, whenever you think about gambling, just grab that coin and squeeze it as hard as I can. And I've done that a dozen times. I've driven by casinos. I drive by a casino almost every day when I'm delivering on my medical courier route. I drive by the biggest casino in Massachusetts and just wing right by it because I don't need it anymore, and it's one more day. But You know what? Tomorrow's another day, and I could easily just, you're only as good as your last bet. And that's where I am. So again, accountability groups for anything. And, don't be afraid to form a little group, 2, 3, 4 people. And it can be a Facebook group. It can be, we all get on a call. We all get on Zoom. We just have a text chain, whatever. And, people kind of helping each other move forward, because I think that's the biggest key to mental health is and you see it with, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's science, but it's anecdotally, we've heard it many times where you've had older people who, they die right after Christmas, or they die right after somebody's birthday or somebody's graduation or somebody's wedding, because they have something to look forward to. So I think if we have something to look forward to and it's something we're working towards that's exciting for us,
right?
I think that'll keep us in a really good space too. Now, set small goals so you can get there and not be disappointed. And plus, by the time you get there, it's going to have changed anyway. How many times has the wrestling business changed for us when we thought we were going to go in one direction? You thought you were going to take over the world in global wrestling. And then,
right, yeah.
Right? I mean,
And I thought I was going to... So many guys have done that. You were talking a minute ago about just the perspective and prioritization. Sure. And there's been so many guys in years past who were on top of the world or thought they were about to get more, thought the push was never going to end, and that prioritization was not there. The family was not there. That fallback was not there. There's no real other trade that some of these guys knew, and so when it ended for them on the road, didn't know where to go. And now, thankfully, I've seen, at least over the last, 10 years or so, a positive shift in putting more focus on saving money, finding life outside of wrestling, having a backup, having a support group, having additional sources of income, and just being able to have that life outside of the ring, and understanding that we only have one body, don't we, Bob? We've got one body, and that's not just for wrestling itself. I mean, other careers people take. I mean, they grind away at the job, just waiting on that next piece of the puzzle, and they don't find that balance or prioritize what they need to. And I think it's tough to find sometimes. But I'm happy I've found the current balance that I've got. Yeah, and
it's not easy. And also, it's like I with my, the WrestleLife.com stuff, which is my community. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I'll kind of say stuff that it's a little stiff. Like, everybody tells you, you can make it, you can get signed. Well, what if you're not good enough? Like that's the thing. Like, and I don't mean you're terrible, but what if you're not good enough? I was a 4A guy. And if you know what any baseball fans out there, they know a 4A guy is like the guy who's a little bit better than AAA, but not quite good enough to be a full-time player. And that's who I was as a wrestler. And I'm okay with that once I figured it out. But what if you're not, or what if you are good enough and nobody really has a spot for you? My man, Wildman Congo, is a perfect example of that. A great wrestler who just never could find his spot in wrestling, because you can't beat him every week because he's so big. But if you're not going to feature him, you can't use him really. So, I mean, and there's plenty of people on the indies that we could point to and say, wow, that guy's really talented. That girl's really talented. I wonder why they never made it. So it's not necessarily good enough as in talented enough, but what if they don't see it? It doesn't matter how talented you are if they don't see it. But that doesn't mean that you can't ply your trade, make some money on the wrestling circuit, and then set yourself up for other things. Plus, how many people is Matt Cardona? I mean, I know he's having some really good matches, and I know he's kicking ass. But is Matt Cardona is his wrestling really the issue? Like, Matt Cardona is a great worker, but I don't think we've pointed to all the 5-star matches Matt Cardona's had the last 2 years, but yet he's built up his brand. He actually wrote something today that was really cool. He's like, I built up my brand, so I'm bigger than I ever was in WWE. And it's kind of half true because he's a heel, but it's also kind of true. And then he said, if I can do it, you can too. And that was the most powerful message. And that's a message we all should say. If we can see somebody do it, then we can replicate it. And we should be able to put that out there. So my whole thing is, don't worry about getting signed because you'll get disappointed 99.9% of the time. Don't worry about getting signed. Don't worry about catching on. Just worry about doing the absolute best you can and learning everywhere you go and putting more tools in the toolbox. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it'll break for you. And if it doesn't break for you, then you'll end up becoming kind of a force of nature on the independents.
Right.
And that's okay too.
Yeah, and you know, in general, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think every day is an opportunity to learn something new, and I think there are so many of us in wrestling, in entertainment, you know, the music industry, or even, it doesn't matter, teachers, nurses, whatever it may be.
Sure.
We've got all the focus on like end goals and things that we don't sit back and enjoy today. And we just kind of look past today, and life goes by so fast, man. And I think it's important to reel back a little bit and try to enjoy each little step along the way, wherever that may be going.
And I have a perfect example. My marketing coach, Shane Sams, good Kentucky boy, big wrestling fan. Shane was one of these guys who was a history teacher and, you know, was making an okay amount of money, whatever, 50, 60 grand, you know, but wasn't fulfilled. And his son was sick, having some issues at school, and he had to leave to go pick up his son. And his boss, whoever it was, the superintendent or the principal, said, hey, if you do that, then your job's in jeopardy. And he said, I don't want to live like this anymore. So a year later, he started putting out curriculums for history teachers. And then a few years later, he ended up selling the whole business for like $2 million.
Hey, there you go.
And now he teaches marketing, and he's been a big help to me and so many other people. And he's teaching people how to do marketing, how to build your own business, how to do that stuff. And, you know, and again, it doesn't have to be a full-time thing. You can do it part-time, you can whatever, but just have something to work on, have a project, wrestling itself is a project, and it doesn't mean that you put so much pressure on yourself that you crumble to pieces, but just, you know, make it enjoyable, but not only make it enjoyable, but make it so, you know, you come home with a little bit of money, you come home with a little bit of, hey, I didn't make a lot of money on the show, but I wrestled somebody I really wanted to wrestle, and I heard so many good things about them. Or it's somebody, you know, I've been fortunate. I wrestled a lot of the guys I grew up watching, and I know you did too. So it's come on, man. We're friends with the Rock and Roll Express. You know, like,
oh,
you
bro,
got to be friends with them.
And that doesn't go by unnoticed to me,
No.
You know, because like, I sit back and I look at me as a kid, and I was watching Midnight Express, Rock Roll Express, Heavenly Bodies, because I was always a big fan of tag teams.
Sure.
And now I sit and I look back and I go, well, I traveled with Bobby. I've wrestled Midnight. Yep. I've wrestled Rock and Roll legit countless times. And even this past Sunday, I wrestled Ricky Morton. And I sat there after the match. I said, Ricky, I said, you know, you don't understand what this is like for me. It's countless times, but each time I appreciate it more and more and more because I look back as a kid, and I'm living the life, man. I'm getting and you guys, you know, you Southern boys, think about me. I'm stuck in the Northeast watching the Crockett stuff on cable. So meeting Ricky Morton was a way bigger deal for me. I was probably 42 at the time. I cried when I met him. You know, I did. I said, you know, this is a big deal for me. Like, and, you know, later on we got to wrestle, and, you know, I've wrestled Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I've wrestled
Tony Atlas. I've wrestled, one of the Strongbows, SD Jones, like, and I'm buddies with Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor was legit my favorite wrestler growing up. Like it's, and he's someone who mentored me. He was kind of like my Uncle Bob. He's the guy that kept me in wrestling when I didn't,
There's so
when I was
much
ready to,
that we can sit back and just really appreciate if we take the time,
Sure. And that's the best part.
As we do wrap up, there's people listening who are going through challenging time, going through a tough day mentally, a tough week, maybe going through a terrible event. Who knows? What advice would you give to those who are having a tough time?
It's the biggest thing I can say is, again, I think having something to look forward to, which doesn't mean that you don't, and also it is something you really need to work on so you can move past this. And by the way, feel your feelings. If it's a death, if it's a loss, if it's a breakup, if it's, and we've had so many people leave us this year. We just lost the referee in Indiana, Sean Patrick O'Brien.
I saw that. Yeah, terrible.
And a wonderful guy. And it's, we've lost so many. And then also I've had very good friends of mine get divorced, and another one the other day is getting divorced, unfortunately. And I don't sit there and go, oh man, stiff upper lip and all that. I go, man, that sucks. It really does. I've been through it myself, and it's terrible, but you got to feel it and you got to go through it. And then you have to find a way to process that information and move on. And it's not easy, because it sounds so easy to just say it in a sentence, right, Matt? But it's, the biggest thing I can tell you is have goals, have things to look forward to, and cherish what you have, and just have gratitude for everything around you, because, like Gary Vee says, it's a 1 in a billion trillion chance that we're even on Earth right now in this time. So
true.
So let's just embrace what we have, embrace each other, and then, just make sure we do everything we can as best we can to appreciate the people around us. And that's so there's nothing left unsaid. There's no regrets. We've expressed our feelings and our appreciation for the people close to us. So if they do leave us unexpectedly, we go, hey, at least it's a sad time, but at least we didn't show them that we weren't grateful for them being around us.
Yeah.
So
I was friends really close with Bobby Eaton, and
Sure.
that was always something to me. I watched Health Challenges pick up over the years with him.
Sure.
And I always wanted to go above and beyond to make sure he knew he was appreciated, not only from me. I tried to make it to where everybody was able to show appreciation for Bob, and just that he was loved. And I think it's very important that we do that for so many people.
Right. And look at all and not only the friendship that he gave you, and the training and the mentorship and all that, but also what he gave to other people, and also what he gave to the world. Like,
oh my gosh.
Again, he was one of my favorite. The Midnight Express were absolutely my favorite. Jim Cornette's my oldest friend. I've known Jim Cornette since I was a fan. So he's my oldest friend in wrestling by far. Yeah. But I had so much love and respect for those guys. I just regret the fact that I didn't get a chance to speak to Bobby more. I mean, I did. And I, said, hey, I was a big fan and all that.
He didn't have many words. He was pretty short.
No, I know. I imagine that.
He would have been you doing the talking.
I did, yeah, and I'm a man long for words, so it's okay. So
well, as we wrap up here, I do appreciate you popping by. Where can we find you? Put yourself over for a second.
Oh, well, it's kind of easy. It's at Brutal Bob Evans on almost everything. I got it back on Instagram. For some reason, I lost it, and now I got it back. So I got it on that. Facebook. I'm a Facebook guy. But I've been trying to do a little bit more Twitter and things like that. So Uncle Elon will look upon me favorably.
Pay him $8, brother.
So, yeah, sure. So I'm trying to keep my blue check mark the best I can. So I'm running in place as fast as I can. But so that's it. And if anybody wants to hit me up for one-on-one coaching, or check out thewrestlelife.com, I have for wrestlers that are struggling. I'm happy to give it for your listeners. ProWrestlingStarterKit.com is a 30-day free trial. You can cancel right after if you want. Don't worry, I don't take it personally. Or you can stay on and pay the membership fee, and you'll get plenty of cool stuff. But check it out. If you're stuck, that's always a good thing. And I have the WrestleLife.com podcast, which is 100% free, and that's on all the probably all the same things that you're on.
Yeah,
so
wonderful. Well, thank you
Yes, sir.
for carving out that time. I appreciate you stopping by. Always a pleasure, my friend, and be safe out there.
All right, man. I love and appreciate you and all you're doing, and please keep up the good work, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
I want to thank Bob again for taking the time to join us, especially after having tech troubles last week. Just him carving out a little more time to redo was much appreciated, and I hope that you guys found some value in our conversation together. We have some exciting episodes ahead. If you haven't done so, go back and check out the ones that we've done so far. We have so many wonderful interviews over the last couple months that I feel can add a lot of value into your day. Go check out WrestlingMind.com for all the links to our podcast services that we're connected with. Subscribe, review, share. That's how we get the word out. Please go support our social media pages if you get a chance. Help us get these episodes out to fresh ears, fresh eyes. I thank you all for tuning in yet again this week, and I hope you have a wonderful day.